pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Kelly, roll call.
Mark Foltz. Here. Mark Frazier.
Here.
Francis Griffith.
Here.
Kelly Schmitz here. Ray Carmelli.
Here. Okay, you got your agenda as presented?
I do need to add, there's shrubs at the Veteran Circle, so we'll just put down Veteran Circle shrub removal.
Oh, there's some shrubs that need to be removed. Kelly?
Just add that to the agenda, yeah.
Motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. That's so. Okay. July 5th, last month's regular meeting minutes.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Typed up.
Second.
Motion been made by Mark, seconded by Butch, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, we've got two public comment sessions. We got a shorter one and a longer one, and so anybody wants to give a short public comment now, we can. Some of the people are on the agenda, the mining operation, we've got some other things going on, voting, things like that, the library. Okay. Sheriff,
We'll let you talk when we get to the mining part. So.
That's what,
Yeah.
Troy, report on the...
Sheriff report.
Sheriff report. Where is it?
Looks like for the month of July, we had 168 calls for service. 78 of them were traffic stops. And just nothing stands out huge, a lot of VOLs or just 911 hang-ups, but as far as serious things, onesie, twosies. So.
Okay. Thank you. Good. Mark, Cecil?
The new SCBA's are in and they're just finishing up training on those. We were mandated by my OSHA that we had to replace them. It wasn't the breathing apparatus itself, it was the tanks, but we were having more problems with the breathing apparatus, so we just...
It's time to...
Yeah, it was...
It's time. Pass it.
There's an NFPA rule that they can be
Tested.
they'll be the tanks can be they're good for 10 years and they can be recertified once.
Right.
And then they can't, even if they're fine or would pass recertification, they can't be. They have to be replaced.
Right.
That's the tank, but the mask, but then they changed, in the meantime, in the 20 years, they changed the rest of it, so you end up buying the whole thing. They're expensive.
Oh, yeah, we'd spent $28,000 or something.
Yeah. Safety first, really,
Well,
for sure.
yeah, I don't know.
The frustrating thing is there was nothing wrong with them. Right, they passed certification, you're not allowed to certify them.
And our old ones sometimes get given to departments in the upper because they can't even afford to buy used ones, so. We're gonna update the municipal contracts and we're gonna start invoicing each community that we serve every month so that we can better keep track of what money's coming in. We've been able to hire some new ambulance personnel and we're pretty close to having full staff back on, which a lot of areas surrounding us are not that lucky right now.
Good.
And part of how we did that is we approved lateral transfer pay. So in other words, if somebody has 5 years experience as a paramedic someplace else, then we're allowing them 5 years experience to their pay, put them in that pay level, because it's the only way you can get.
That's logic, that's logical.
It's
10 years, they get 10 years.
Right, so they would come in at our 10-year pay scale, and the union approved that.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, it's really kind of a situation you hate to get into, but it's the only way you can get help because everybody, the city of Lansing had 70 open positions.
Wow.
And they got 17 applications for that 70. And they pay more than we do, but some people don't want
Substantially
that.
more than we do. And fortunately, there's people that want to work here and not in the city of Lansing. So
Yeah,
that's how we're able to get our staff.
Their call volume is much higher and it's more intense in the areas they have to serve in some cases are not as nice.
Yeah.
And here it's a little more easy to deal with, so.
Yeah. Okay, my report on the DDA, of course, we did meet in July. I guess I should report something, shouldn't I? Which I.
Yeah, you met
I-
2 weeks ago.
Huh?
2 weeks ago, right?
Yeah, we did meet July, yeah. So, we rehashed everything. CISA is having a meeting in September, and Joe Audio volunteered to pay for the luncheon.
SEDP.
I mean, SEDP, Economic Development, and so Justin will pay for the meal at noon, which will be here on the September 18th or 19th.
Yes, I think Mark, yeah.
18th or 19th.
Yeah, it's a Monday,
We talked about ongoing projects. We lost our consumers rep, Catherine Brookholder, is so good. We talked about the other gentleman coming from Flint back, but she's okay. But
He's not
the
as good as
transition
Catherine.
is a problem because we've got somebody hit the light pole on Lansing Road, one of the nice lights we put up. And we've been a year trying to get it put up, reinstalled. And then they were saying, consumers were saying, well, we have to pay for the pole before we order it, although we thought we had on order a year ago, and then re-upped in January. So we made a motion to order 2 poles that the DDA would buy, and we'll store them at Bennett Drive at one of the DDA members' properties behind the back of his property. So we're working on that, and working still on the grant for the water loop. Did talk with the mayor once. He wants to have another meeting with the engineer, make sure the numbers are good between the new pump station up here on Ellsworth Road, that little area that they over the city homes, and the water tower over on to give additional water pressure to our DDA. New companies that might come in that needs to have fire suppression, so it'll be a water tower, which they need a water tower for the fire suppression for our trucks. So it'll be on the north side of Lansing Road, and then of course the water line we don't have, which should be from Dollar General all the way down Bennett Drive back into the high school. About a $5 million project. Of course, they don't have any money. We have about $400,000. The city of Perry they have zero. So we're working with our senators, Peters and Deb Stabenow, and Sam I don't know if I told you this, Monday I had a Zoom meeting with Sam Singh, who's given the update to Shiawassee County on Zoom, and said that it appears that there's a $500 million infrastructure money that's going to be available to the state and the federal government, and he's going to help us try to get that. So he said to set the staff meeting, so with the mayor and I will have a meeting trying to get some of that money to us. That was basically what we talked about at our meeting.
The long and the short on the light issue we went consumers. We went with consumers because consumers was maintains the light. All right, I mean that was the whole point of the deal. They had gotten 2 spare ones when the project was done, in 2018, and now 3 have been hit. So the first 2 got changed, and they never ordered spares. And then they're waffling around. I mean, this has been a year and a half. This was winter 21-22 that it got hit. And of course, now they're waffling around. First they said they fixed it, and they hadn't fixed it. And then, I mean, I laid it all out to Catherine in an email. Here's what you've done and what you've said, and we're waiting, and I didn't get a response.
But I talked to her, and we do.
And at the end of the day, they're supposed to maintain it, and if one gets hit, that falls under maintaining it. Now, I think the problem was on this one, the last one that got hit, is they didn't know who hit it.
Couldn't backtrack.
Because there wasn't a police report or anything done, so they couldn't go after an insurance company. And of course, frankly, it's not a high priority for them. So outside of us staying on it, it's just not.
So I talked with Gabriel, he's the lighting coordinator in Flint, Michigan for the whole state of Michigan, and he is working on trying to get us a lamp post for free, and he's trying to get it ordered right now. So we're on that. We think we're past that. Anyway, that was our DDA. Zoning, well, zoning is an issue. I got some holes on a private road that need to come out. They're about 8-10 inches from the end of the road, and we're working with that. We're working with our zoning on other issues on a 50-year-old mining operation that they want to resurrect from the dead, and And we had our zoning enforcement, somebody on Beard Road, we got junk and debris on Morris Road. Got a bunch of traders in a 1 acre, about 8 extension cords running out and dogs, and anyway, got that issue still to resolve, and then there's another one that's been resolved. Junk on Jennifer Drive. And then there was a 10 by 40 storage unit in Bennett Drive, that was industrial, and we got a 680 square foot uncovered deck on the front and north side of the residence on Beardsley Road.
Yep.
Beardsley Road. Bath Road, we got
Cool.
pole barn, another pole structure on Barn Way. And so we had a little activity that went on Delaney, 1500 pole structure. So we had pretty extensive permits and things. So that's
Where do these two fall in?
Excuse me?
So one of them, Mark, the one for Nelson Holding Company, I guess, well, we can talk about both of them.
Yeah.
Oh, I see it there on the thing.
It's on.
So on the agenda, the other one, that one will go to the planning commission, so the Nelson Holding one, we have an issue to talk about on the agenda regarding an IFT potentially for them. That one is a minor site plan review, so that one doesn't require a review because it's, it's industrial property, it's a use by right type thing. The other one, the LA Auto Sales, that is a special use permit. So that one will go to the planning commission in August and then will come to us in September because it goes to the county planning commission at the end of September.
Okay, all right.
So that one, you guys will have a meeting in August.
They're kind of new. They were kind of new. Yeah. Okay, check. Tom, County Commissioner, tell us what's going on at the county.
Well, it's been very quiet this summer. In fact, the commission thought it's so quiet that they've got rid of one meeting a month. We're down to just 2 committee meetings on a Monday and a Tuesday, and then including committee of the whole. And the county commission meeting is on Wednesdays. But it has been quiet. I voted against cutting that additional meeting a month. I don't think we need so much, so burdensome. But the point is, things have been fairly quiet. The last I heard, the county courthouse update is going well. The update for the veterans headquarters is. It's been delayed. There have been some problems. We had to approve they wanted to alter the entryway, the driveway into it, and
They
so
moved
we
in?
did that.
They moved in because SCDP is up in their old offices now.
Yes, and they're planning on having a kind of a formal opening, probably in the next 4 weeks or so. And the one issue that I, of course, been concerned about is the zoning. Now, the County Planning Commission is revising the county plan, and an emphasis, of course, is on the projects for solar power and so on. And I know that, I appreciate Mark letting me know at the last planning commission meeting here, the township, I did attend, and that issue, the revised planning, or the revised township plan was well done. I appreciated we got some good comments from the Livingston County Planning Commission about the work you did, but we didn't hear anything from our county.
No, we got it from Livingston, we got it from Williamstown Township, got it from Woodhull Township, not a peep from our county.
Yeah. As you know, one of my concerns has been the County Planning Commission. Of course, I'm not on the committee for that, but I have been kind of keeping a close eye on that, because in the past, as we know, the county has ignored, at best, ignored the township. The issue has been raised with me in Perry Township, it's been raised with me in Woodhull Township, and while they're not in my district, Bennington Township has had problems along those lines. And so I do appreciate if you see anything on the township level. My view of it is, of course, the county has a plan and the township has a plan, but they should be coordinated. The law requires that when we, for example, here the township alter our plan or revise it, that we notify the adjoining geographic areas and certainly the county. My impression is that the county tends to have their own attitude, but their plan should correspond to what the township's desire. On the issue of, I suggested to the Township Planning Commission here, by the way, that as far as solar projects are concerned, we refer to them as solar projects and not solar farms, because they're anything but farms. And in my view, they don't belong in an agricultural area, especially if there's a prime, a good agricultural land that we have one state law encouraging us to preserve, but then on the other hand, we work against that purpose if we, so I like to call them solar projects. The, both Consumers Energy and Detroit DTE are pushing to, in order to meet the goals set by the Public Service Commission, which regulates public utilities, to work toward, quote, renewable energy, that they're going to want to acquire thousands of acres of land. Most of it would be in the southern part of the state, probably the more agricultural area. So it is a problem, and but townships, we need to really be, I appreciate you really letting me know if any projects come up or such as that.
Tom was planning on coming to the commission meeting last Wednesday when they had a,
Now, that would be the county.
that was the county
Planning,
that you
yeah.
were going to go to, and I'm glad that Pete Preston did call me at home. He was actually getting in his house because the dog was barking. So he did call me to let me know it was going to be canceled because of the rain, so I called Butch, and I called you, and I called Tom, and we had to kind of get that pulled. I have not heard of a reschedule of that yet. It'll be next month. It'll be next month, so I'll let you know the date. But anyway,
I frankly get concerned though when regularly scheduled meetings under the Open Meetings Act are canceled like that. And I happened to be in Perry that afternoon. I did hear the siren go off, not that there was a tornado or anything, but did hear the siren go off because there were warnings for adverse thunderstorm, but I don't know, I've grown up in Michigan, this part of Michigan, I've been around a long time. I don't recall meetings, I thought it was kind of a,
It was an
Yeah,
excuse.
it was
They, for 20 years, I can think of when something controversial was potentially coming up at a meeting, all of a sudden it'd be canceled.
The sirens went off at 2 and 3 o'clock.
But the meeting wasn't until 7. I've seen that before by the county. It doesn't shock me. It's not right, it shouldn't, it's not the way it should happen, but I've seen
on
it.
the one hand, you don't want to surprise them, you know, or, you know, I want to let him know that, hey, this is coming, and there's people that are upset, and rightly so. And he understood that, you know, and so I said, you had your 3-minute period of time to talk, and they're going to take all of that and probably have the second 3 minutes at the end, you know. I said, okay, it's fine, Mark. He understood. But again, by the same token, you know, he knew that there's probably going to be more than just a quick meeting going on, you know.
The he you're talking about is Pete.
So, yeah,
And the meetings for our committee on zoning issues is on the Monday.
Economic and physical.
Yeah, economic and development, zoning falls under that. And so that does come up on, we first get it at the commission on the Monday of our meeting week, which is the second full week of the month. But,
I mean, just to touch base what you're talking about on the county master plan and all that, historically what happened is they would take the township master plans and put it together into the county plan. Now, the northern townships didn't used to have anything. I mean, you know, most of those didn't ever had planning commissions, because not a lot going on up there. You know, so then the county planning commission would designate stuff down there. But in the southern half of the county, where we have a population and more activity, I mean, we've always had one, Woodhull's had one, Bennington's had one. I mean, those three, which were the larger ones, you know, have always had one, and that's historically what they would do, is take ours and incorporate it in the county one. Now, if they're just going to ignore ours and do one on the own, which is what they've alluded to in the past, I mean, that's going to be a problem, you know, for us anyway.
I will say,
But they've been working on it for 5 years and they haven't done squat, you know.
well, they have been focusing on the solar project facet of the county plan, which is good, and they seem to be talking about it correctly, but we need to keep a close eye on them, because I do think the county should defer to the township planning, but I don't think that's the attitude up there at all. And I will, to the extent that I can influence, I'm gonna push for that, because zoning is intended for the lowest level of government.
And we
the
totally
closest.
support you on that too.
Yeah.
You know.
The government closest to the people.
Right, that's why it's our, you know, and I mean, the system, the county system just, it may just collapse. I mean, we may just all have to do, you know, it on our own, and if that's what it comes to, that's what it comes to. But the county system is really a lot more efficient if it works, you know, but.
There is, I will say this, there is a court decision from the State Court of Appeals, which is a court of record that sets precedent for the state involving Benton Township over in Eaton County, in which Eaton County ignored Benton Township's request that they deal a certain way with a solar project there, and the county ignored the township, so the township put on a moratorium on the solar projects and said, we're gonna do our own zoning ordinance over it, as opposed to planning. We're gonna zone on this now, and the court did uphold that process. Now, and I think that's favorable to townships if they have to take that course of action. It seems under the laws that were passed, the new zoning acts passed in the early 2000s, that there is an alternative for the townships, but it means taking on the zoning as in addition to the planning responsibility.
Yeah, no, and the authority rests with us if we want to do it. So. Okay,
Okay.
that's Tom.
All right, Tom, thank you. SEDP. SEDP.
Jumping
Skip
library.
the library. Oh, the library, excuse me, Mark.
Would you like to talk?
I will,
Go
yeah,
ahead.
absolutely.
And your name again was
I'm Caroline Vincent.
Caroline?
Yep, Caroline.
and my last name is Vincent. And I'm the branch manager at the Morris branch. And so I've been there for 1 year now, and things have been really good. Traffic coming in has been good. We've met or exceeded previous year numbers, which I'm really excited about because Jenny was there for a long time and she was very well loved, and she still fills in. Like, so I went on vacation for spring break and she had a line of people who couldn't wait to come see her there. So I think that's good for her and for the patrons that are regulars that come in. But we've had summer reading numbers have been really good this summer. We've had a lot of really great performers come out. We partnered with the Senior Center earlier this week, and we were able to have our big magic show in their gymnasium. So we were able to accommodate 39 people, which we would have never been able to do in the branch. So that was really exciting. And then this is the first year that we've had adults be able to participate in the summer reading program. And we've just been blown away by the number of adults who've registered and completed the program. So the prizes are a little different for the adults than for the kids. The kids are really loving the treasure chest prizes, but adults get entered to win a Made in Michigan basket that has different Michigan grown popcorn in it and different things. And so lots of people are really excited about that. And this is the last week of summer reading, so it ends on Saturday in time for people to get ready to go back to school. And so starting next week, I'm starting a story time series that'll go through the end of the year. And so I'm looking forward to hopefully meeting some new families who might be entering the school system, you know, because we'll let the school know, you know, about what we have going on. And yeah, so everything seems to be really going well, and I'm really happy to be working at the library.
Well, we have always been impressed with the numbers that come through from the Morris branch. I mean, it's a very nice branch, but it's just small, right?
It is, yeah.
But I mean, Jenny had just a huge following, and you've continued it on. But I mean, the patronism there is just great.
It is. Yeah.
So
That's great.
keep up the good work.
Thank you.
According to the notes that Patty gave me,
Okay.
Jamie was gonna be here,
Yeah.
thought she was gonna be here to present the annual report, so I'm assuming she'll probably be here next month.
Yeah.
So I won't go into that.
She said that she'll be here next month.
Yeah, but she did say, just as kind of a little teaser to that the circulation numbers are up again this year throughout the system. So that just tells you how relevant that board and Jamie have made the libraries, the 7 or 8 that we have.
7, yeah.
And that's really important because libraries, they were in danger of being obsoleted, and Jamie's managed to keep them very, very relevant with a lot of new technology and things like that, so.
Great.
That's it.
Okay, Mark. Okay, thanks. And thank you
Yes, thank you.
for coming. Do you want to leave? You may leave.
Oh, I think I might stay, actually.
Oh, okay.
You don't have to.
It may get a little heated, but that's okay. Okay, SEDP.
SEDP didn't have a meeting because
Okay.
a number of the people from the executive board of SEDP were meeting with a battery company,
That's right.
an American battery company for part of the property in the Durant site.
Durant. Yeah.
So that was
the day.
that day, and so they felt that was of utmost importance.
Okay, Mark, let's open this. Mark was at the planning commission on.
Now, wait a minute, we gotta go farther.
Oh.
And to do with that Durant situation, they spent 2 days with that company.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay.
On site visits, we are in, that is 300 acres of, we have 800 or a little more under option right now.
Oh, wow.
And more people wanting to get under option on that, so,
It's a big plot of land in the state of Michigan, isn't it?
yep, and we've been pretty adamant as SVP has about certain things to do with that. First is that there's got to be transparency to the community. There cannot be all this hidden agenda and secrets because, as we all know, secrets breed suspicion. The other thing is that we were more favorable to seeing a number of companies enter that site rather than one large company, because one large company, as we've seen in Lansing, Flint, Saginaw, Pontiac, whatever, one large company comes in, and if they decide to downsize or leave, then you got a great big empty, huge building that's not really doable for other things. But if you start having just a number of buildings, then if somebody doesn't quite make it, then that building could probably be repurposed much easier, so that's been the big thing. Land bank, we received, actually, we had a special meeting Monday this week. We received notification of round 3 of Blake grant money. It will be $500,000. We will get all $500,000 in Shiawassee County.
Oh, great.
We need projects submitted to us by November 1st. We will shortly have the criteria involved in that. And what we're hoping to do is, if we have a number of, let's say, houses that need to be torn down, that we can possibly bid them as a block to get a better price to make our money go farther. So,
Let's do when?
November
November
1st.
1st.
That's tentatively, we'll know better next Monday, but,
Okay.
so we need to start watching for projects and see the round 2 money. Part of it was from round 1, it went to, Dan Geisler in Duran for a building that's literally falling down. There's a tree holding up one wall. To get that out so that he could start a project there to put some other building in there. And then also went to tearing down the old Welcome Inn just west of Walmart, that's been being used as a homeless, well, not legally, but at any rate, so the round 3 money is gonna be, the housing update is underway, the housing study, so that we should know the types of housing we already have in the county and what we need in the county much more definitively, and be able to present that to builders. Brownfield Authority is working, and we are working on a plan to do with the Woodland Trails and the Washington Park properties in the city that we got from the land bank. We have a number of those properties that we got from the land bank that were those little slivers and orphan pieces that we have awarded to people that bid on them. And we actually got more than I thought we would get, $500 here, $500 there, but that's, it might be 5 foot wide by 100 foot long kind of pieces, and they understand they have to attach them to their pieces of property that they have that border them. And that was pretty much it.
Make sure Morris is in contact on that blight thing, because I know they're in the process of getting one condemned now, and maybe by November they would be in the ability to participate in that.
What we're hoping to do is, first off, there's going to be letters going to all the municipalities and so forth, but we're actually hoping to hold, you remember the meeting for the trucking company that we held here? We're thinking about holding a meeting like that for not only local governments, but for lenders and sellers and so forth, to try to put what's happening out in front of a lot of people, and that we can make the best use we can out of this money.
But sometimes you have to be a little proactive with Morris on those things, but I mean, I know they have a blighted one, that they're working to have the authority to tear it down, so maybe by November you could get a piece.
And actually, November is going to be the deadline for the project submission to us. We actually have until this time next year, but we're not going to take that long, because what we found out, we're learning, and we found out too that the state land bank is learning as they go along. This is all kind of a new thing, that we need to, we've had to go back on things and straighten out issues and problems that nobody was aware of there was. So we want to have enough time at the end to not take a chance at losing part of it because we weren't able to handle all that, so.
Who is coordinating all that? Who's the staff member?
Well, at this point, it's Brent, but we're looking at hiring somebody else to put strictly on that because Brent's overloaded, so.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I loathe to intrude in your meeting again, but I have a question for Mark too about the housing. Have you heard of a Shiawassee County Housing Task Force report that came out about a month ago on homelessness?
No.
Okay.
But the guy that might know that would be Justin.
Okay, well, I just say for you, you may get briefed on the issues of housing, but I received a report from them, and it shows for Perry School District that we've got 296 homeless children in Perry schools,
Really?
and in Morris schools, they show 111
Really?
homeless kids. And I was so taken aback when I saw, they came and gave the report to the commission. I mean, they rely on what are called McKinney-Vento, it's a federal law, numbers that have to do with homelessness and kids being able to go to school in a school district. And I talked to both superintendents and their deputies that put together that data, and instead of 296 for Perry, it should be maybe 10 to 12 kids.
296, I mean, the district only has 1,200
That's a
students,
third,
so it wouldn't be a quarter of the
Yeah,
district.
that's a third of Perry School District, and 111 in Morris. I think they have about 400 to
Say it'd be a
500.
quarter or more.
Yeah, and so it's, I
I
would
could
be
believe
suspicious.
10, but not
Yeah.
400.
And for Morris, it's like 4 to 5. So I would be, if they're coming to you with these housing reports, I would be,
The land bank has actually bought this. We've hired the firm that's doing it for us. This is not a government information thing, that we've hired an actual firm to do this. And they've done a number of them throughout the country, the ones we looked at. And the reason is when you start looking at development in the county as a whole, just as a for instance, we have this dredge plant that's gonna go in Lennon, right at the expressway. Well, that's gonna create an additional, they're gonna bring 100 jobs from their facility in Genesee County that they're closing, but then they're gonna add about 150 more. Okay, some of those people will live in Genesee County, but some of them are gonna wanna live in Shiawassee County. So what kind of housing do we need to help developers move toward without injuring the atmosphere of the townships that in cities and villages that we have right now? I mean, we're very focused in this board to not destroy agricultural land just for the sake of destroying it. And so those are the kind of things that this study was supposed to bring out. I mean, do we need apartments? Do we need, what do we have already? And what do we need to focus on to try to help? Because we have builders come to SEDP and looking for what kind of projects would be well received in this community, as a county. And so that was the reason for that housing study. But I appreciate that.
Okay, SEDP done?
Yeah.
SEDP done. Okay, Mark is also on our planning commission for the township, and at that meeting, Mark was at, I was at, and Tom was at, and that meeting was Wednesday night, a week ago?
Thursday.
Thursday night, a week ago tomorrow. Thursday night, and
No, 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, my golf was canceled, that's right. Right, yeah, I golfed in Brighton, so I was here because that golf game was canceled. So start it out and let's talk about it.
Well, we primarily, that meeting was the scheduled meeting for the public hearing for the new master plan, which is part of, the state mandates certain time frames and meetings that have to happen. And we really didn't have, Tom was really the only member of the public, partway at least, that was there. But we did have some things brought up to us by Livingston County and Williamstown Township about things like the color keys on a couple of the maps in there weren't real clear to them what meant. So we changed a few things like that. We changed some grammar and spelling and nothing of any real, that was gonna change the plan at all. We have a lot of compliments on the plan, and I think now we have a plan that has a very strong foundation to move forward if we have to move into the zoning area, which that's gonna be a whole nother issue, but we needed to have a strong master plan. We had a master plan before, but there was a lot of things about it that were weak, and this is really.
We needed to have, that needed to be checked off the list first.
Yep, and
You had your election, you had your elections.
we had elections for officers, and that did change. Let's see, we have,
Would,
yeah, Dwayne is the chairman, and Beth is the vice chair, and Sandy remains the secretary. And then we did talk just a little bit about the mining thing. That really wasn't in front of us for that meeting. We just kind of did a little bit of advanced discussion about it.
one of the people on the board is Joe Osanostic, and he actually has a company he's had for a long time where he takes the dirt out. Anyway, he said.
He's a gravel hauler.
And so he helped us understand if this was the land, that if this is the hole they're mining, that if they only had permission to enlarge this hole, they couldn't be making new holes here and new holes over there. That's what was said at the meeting, right, Tom?
Yeah, pretty much.
So,
Okay, well, that's further down on the agenda.
but that was kind of what was discussed in that meeting.
Yep, but that was the plan.
Okay, financial report and paid bills, Troy.
All right, you got your bills list in front of you?
Nope.
You don't?
No.
It was in your box.
I got mine.
You were looking at mine?
That's right.
So, anyway, you have your bills list in front of you. Really nothing out of the ordinary this month, just normal stuff. It's not a revenue sharing income month, so not a lot of activity. Are there any questions?
No.
Motion to pay the bills.
All right, Mark has made a motion to pay the bills. Who wants to second? Butch, okay. Motion made, second, roll call vote.
Mark Cole?
Yes.
Mark Frazier?
Yes.
Francis Griffin?
Yes.
Kelly Schmidt, yes. Ray Carmen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Very good. Correspondence. I had a couple correspondence, one from a gentleman that's here regarding the Beardsley Road, Christopher Rollins, a property owner in Perry. And I had some correspondence from our former sheriff, Brian Begaud. Brian Begaud is now our state rep in Lansing. He has a little fundraiser, I think, for his farm set for September. He's invited former Governor Rick Schneider, and Rick will be there. So I just thought I'd pass that on. That was today. Anything? Did you get anything? No? Did you get anything? That was the correspondence, I guess, that I really had. All right, let's start with public comments. Who wants to be first?
I'll go first.
You want to go first?
Mine's concerning the mining. I have copies of what I'm going to be saying today and a site survey, a certificate of survey that might help in my discussion if you like this.
Absolutely.
You have 5 copies.
I'm gonna make copies for you guys.
Yeah, we have a copy of that.
Oh, okay, great.
Or the,
Okay, yes, I know you already have yours. All right, my name is Chris Rollins. I live at 5743 Church Road, and I'm addressing the mining that's going on immediately butting up to my property. And this property is owned by Todd Davis. My home was built in 2003 by John Rolls, who owned all the parcels at the time. And my decision for building here was based on the beauty of the land, its peace and quiet, and now my property is being threatened by a gravel pit bordering on my southern, eastern, and western borders. This area is residential and farmland. All the properties that surround this gravel pit are residential. The back of my house consists of large picture windows facing south, exposing the entire gravel pit. Work will usually start around 6:15 in the morning, a.m. Heavy equipment starts at 6:30 a.m. in the morning and doesn't end, if we're lucky, until 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock. This goes on every day, including Sundays. Some notable examples: Sundays, July 16th, they started at 9 a.m. and finished at 9:30 p.m. Friday, July 21st, they finished at 10 p.m. at night. Sunday, July 23rd, chainsawed all day, and this is only in the month of July. I think they've been running this thing for about 3 weeks at this point right now. There's no respect given to the residents of this area by the owner of the gravel pit, and we do not get a break. Back of my home is roughly about 200 feet from the back of my property, where Mr. Davis has already been putting in a gravel truck exit road that's going on. You can see this by the, if you're looking at the survey, this is highlighted in yellow. This goes all the way through from parcel A through parcel H, which originally wasn't part of parcel A, the gravel pit. Parcel A being the gravel pit. This is in full view of my home. This extends the length of my southern and eastern borders, sometimes only 25 feet to 50 feet from my property line, and then turning into to the front of my home on Church Road. This is address 5859 Church Road. There's my property, there's an adjacent property right next to that road that's being pursued, and there's one across the street. This should not be allowed, and if the gravel pit is allowed to proceed, the exit or entrance should be changed and placed on Beardsley Road. I'm thinking if we don't win this on the gravel pit, stopping it, if they put the exit road on the south exit of Beardsley Road. They already have one on the northern entrance on Beardsley Road. This is already being, the entrance they have listed under Davis Sand and Gravel is 10165 Beardsley Road. This is on his website right now, so he's advertising this as we speak. There's no addresses yet put up there, but this is already on his website. Turning to the front of my home, I'm going to end up being surrounded completely by this gravel pit. Constant trucks going nonstop, gearing up, gearing down, slowing down, braking nonstop, and this is going on all day long. So my suggestion would be putting that gravel pit exit on the southern end of parcel A. So they would have the entrance and exit on Beardsley Road. If the road is allowed to continue, Mr. Davis is probably doing what he's done for the rest of the property and just tear out all the trees, exposing my home to parked excavating equipment, double wide residence / pole barn. There's somebody that does live there and rents. I don't know if it's lawful for somebody to live on a gravel pit, and a view of the raked out landscape. This is not what I moved in for. As well as constant truck tractors feet away from my home. This road has already started, I think has started, I don't know if they have had a permit to do this yet, but this is as wide as what they're going to be driving huge gravel trucks onto. I didn't invest in this property for this to occur, and we never got any notice that this was going to happen. The Church Road exit, one big thing with that Church Road exit, it will also further destroy the road. Right at that exit site, that road will constantly wash out in the months of February all the way to the end of May. There's another spot a little bit further east down Church that's really bad too, but this is really bad too. People won't be able to pass by at that exit. It's a low spot. Okay, and it's also, it'll be between my residence and another residence, so we have this big gravel road going right between two properties, and there's one right across the road from it. Another big point on this gravel pit is not a necessity or benefits the township, the county, the state of Michigan. Its sole purpose is for Davis and Company Davis and Gravel. And if Davis and Gravel uses this gravel pit only to serve their company's limited needs, that's what they do, is do driveways and so on. The logic dictates that this gravel pit would be allowed to run indefinitely and never will be reclaimed. If you're doing it for other projects, bigger projects, you can end up emptying it out. But this case, this will never be reclaimed, permanently lowering all of our property values indefinitely. I work from home on Zoom, teaching, and other things, that audio is important and recording is important, and this is totally interfering with my livelihood. Lastly, I decided to build my home here because of the land, the peace and quiet, and the serenity of having a safe home. This is all now gone. I've invested all my savings and income into my home. Now, the average value of my home can decrease by 35% by living so close to this gravel pit. And so we're looking for the township and the county to have the responsibility of protecting us. And this is what we're for. I've got a couple other things I wanted to mention too, but I can stop at that point.
Quick question on the, so you live at parcel G,
Oh, yes, 11,
and is there a house at parcel D?
there is, I live on parcel G.
Right.
There is the home that is on parcel D. This person, her first name is Sherry, they had originally owned all of this parcel, this acreage. Parcel H, G, F, E, D, C, B, and A.
Okay.
Their family owned all this. John Rose built her house for exchange for all of this property at no cost. This is how he acquired all this property.
Okay.
Their family was the original, the previous owner from John Rolls. So not only has it gone from this property owner, changed names over to John Rolls again, and I don't know what the history is going back, but with the non-conforming status, it's changing property owners constantly, and I know talk has been said about when's the last time this has been mined? When was this established? When was the zoning established? It's changed. And they're also saying too about this, if that mine is going on parcel A, and within the letter that was given to Todd Davis from
Pete Preston.
yes, you can't expand your gravel pit, what I understand. They're talking about holes. Well, is the gravel pit road part of the gravel pit?
Good point.
I want to say it is, because they can't get in and get out from the whole thing. Well, now they're going through an additional parcel H, if you look at your certificate of land survey. This is, they're running this gravel pit exit road right through that, which was not originally part of this so-called parcel A at this point. But Todd Davis ended up buying parcel A, H, F, and E. D is already occupied, C is cut.
He bought which ones? A, H?
He bought A, D, E. D is 2 acres, E is 2 acres, and property, parcel H. I'm in between.
So is he living in D?
No, he is not. D is the previous owner that John Rose bought it from.
Okay.
And so it's gone from parcel D, sold it to John Rolls. John Rolls had it for 20 years.
Okay.
And now has sold it to Mr. Davis, who has just...
When John Roll bought it, it was all one parcel. There were no parcels H, which it was all one parcel.
Okay.
When he bought it in the early 2000s.
Okay.
All right, so underneath that, yeah, and the only other things, I addressed the address for Davis Gravel. I'm not going to go into wells and water supply. You guys already heard all that. The other thing we're concerned with is Osborne Creek, which runs through that.
Sure.
That supplies all the farmland west of the property and north of the property too. So they're going to have all the runoff going into that too. So that's something to think about. I thought with parcel H, so I thought that would be something to bring up, that they're enlarging this property from the last ownership of all this, since it was parceled out. I think that's all I want to kind of
Chris.
take your time with.
Okay, and then I want to go with Robin and have you
Yes.
speak, so we can hear what your comments are also.
I don't have any, well, my name is Robin Leary. I don't have any prepared comments because I just found out about this meeting a few hours before it was happening. I own a parcel property adjacent to parcel A. In fact, I share the longest property line with parcel A. And My concerns are things that apparently that you already have heard about. I am concerned about water wells. I'm concerned there's been no hydrology studies. I'm concerned that there's no control of dust and dirt and, you know, smoke, and the trees are cut down.
Like diesel smoke.
Pardon me?
Diesel smoke from the truck?
No, he's burning brush
Oh.
all over the place,
Okay.
to get rid of that. I was visiting the property yesterday and met, one of the Mr. Davises, Todd. And one of the things he said to me specifically was, he said, well, at the end of this, hopefully there will be a nice lake here. Which means that he does, at least so far, or as he stated to me, intend to dig down into this property. And that makes the water wells all the more important. And so anyway, my concern is that I have read, and there are rather extensive regulations regarding what has to be done with a gravel pit to protect, you know, adjacent property owners, the neighborhood, the road, the wells, the water, everything else. And my concern is that those are looked at and enforced, and as quickly as possible, quite frankly, because that land has been pretty much cleared. It is sand and dirt. I would estimate maybe as much as 15 acres out of the 25 is now just cleared of trees and dirt. Various ponds and wetlands have been filled in. He's been very busy, and as we heard by the time frame. So anyway, like I said, it's primarily, you know, if it can't be stopped, then it at least needs to be slowed down until he does what he needs to do, you know, to get permitting from the state, I believe is required. I mean, I think there's a lot more that needs to be done than just move in and start digging.
Okay, Robin, okay, let's talk a little bit about what we had done, maybe, and
Okay.
what Troy has helped us work on,
All right.
and Butch has been involved with the neighbors, and
So-
we started hearing about this from Butch, and then it's carried on now through other people.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, just kind of give an overview of the situation. So, the township itself has next to no authority over this matter. Simply because we don't do our own, as you've heard us discuss already, we don't do our own zoning. And then, you know, primarily the zoning function is what, you know, normally you have to get a special use permit, and there's regulations and all that attached to it. There's also the non-conforming existing use question. All of that is under the county's jurisdiction because we don't do our own zoning. So, you know, as far as us like doing some sort of cease and desist order or anything like that, we can't do that because we have no authority on that topic. That's our county commissioner who's sitting there though, and he's listening. So, that being said, zoning is the primary one on there, but there are other government agencies involved too that Mark and I have tried to coordinate with all of them best we can, because sometimes that's like herding cats, and we're doing okay right now. The road commission. So the roads are under the jurisdiction of the Shiawassee County Road Commission. Mark has talked to them. Mark and I were both on the phone with Chris, who's the director of the road commission today. They have not granted any sort of driveway access permits for this. The only one that is existing would be the existing drive that was there on Beardsley Road.
For a car.
Right, as a residential. Under no circumstance are they going to permit a driveway exit on Church Road.
They've already done it. They already made it.
I know they made it, but they didn't make it legally. So, I mean, they are monitoring that carefully. I mean, the foreman is checking on that. They have told them that there's no driveway permit and they can't do that.
That's right.
If you see activity where they are using it, document it and let us know. And we will make sure the road commission knows.
Who do I contact?
You can contact Mark.
You can contact me,
Or
Butch.
you know where I live.
Or Butch or one.
You know where I live.
I know where you live.
And we will make sure that the road commission is aware of it. I mean, they are they are the authority that grants driveway permits and stuff, and they are in no way going to allow a church road commercial driveway permit there. I mean,
If one of you see an 18-wheeler exit on Church Road, call me immediately, because he will immediately get involved. He said, I don't care if it's night or day. Chris said, call me. So you let me know and we will proceed.
so, you know, monitor, document, and let, you know, Mark Butch, someone. The next government office would be the Environmental Health Department. So environmental health there, who handles like well and septic permits. They also are the ones who handle soil erosion permits. Obviously, when you're doing major earth removing projects, that involves the soil erosion and sedimentation control plan, which is a state law that is enforced by the county environmental health department. I talked to Katie, who is our local sanitarian for our district. I told Mark last week to contact her and Casey Elliott, who's the director of environmental health, have been involved. And I believe Casey has made a site visit there. I did not talk to Casey, but I talked to Katie about it. And I don't know if they have sent, you know, a letter to Davis or not. When I sent Katie what we knew yesterday, I asked that any correspondence that go to Davis be copied to us. I have not seen anything yet. My suggestion is that you guys also contact environmental health. The more people, the better. And after the meeting here, I can get you the phone number to the office. But Katie Plassick is the sanitarian for our area. Casey Elliott is the director of environmental health. And I believe Casey has been the one involved on it. They know the situation. They know what's been claimed. They know what zoning did. You know, but nonetheless, she didn't tell me directly, but I get the impression that there had not been a permit pulled for it, which is a violation of the law. And they, you know, they have probably the most teeth of anybody through the Soil Erosion and Sedimentation Control Act at the state level. I mean, because they're part of the health department. There's, as we know through COVID, there's a lot of teeth with the health department, you know, and my personal opinion is they can do the quickest. Because he's not in compliance with any of that. I mean, there's no silt fences up, there's no erosion control methods. I mean, I could drive by and see all that. Not to mention, if somebody is truly living in a barn in the back there without sanitary facilities, they can get involved there too. Because like I said, they're the office that also does the well and septic permits.
And I talked to her about that.
I know there's a propane tank back there.
Yeah.
And somebody's been renting that for quite a while.
Troy, while you're on the issue of the health department, tomorrow afternoon at 4 p.m. is our monthly meeting of the County Health Board. I sit on that board, and if this doesn't come up tomorrow, based on what I've heard tonight, I think it needs to be brought up because the environmental health people are there and they give a report on what they're dealing with.
Is Casey normally who comes? Casey Elliott?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And Casey's, is my understanding, I have not talked to Casey directly. I talked to Katie, who I know Katie quite well. But Casey has been involved in this, so yes, I bring it up, Tom. The more people that call environmental health, the better. I'll just tell you that. I mean,
I talked to Casey on
but the more they hear, the more they will do.
Where do they meet?
In the public health building in Corona.
All by between the two courthouses.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, call environmental health. That's my suggestion. Third office involves the drain office. So there is the Osborne Creek, which is county drain, goes through the corner of the property there. I talked to both the drain commissioner and the deputy drain commissioner yesterday about it. Tony, the drain commissioner, was at a meeting, but Jenna and I went over where the property was, which parcel it was, you know, sent her a copy of what community development had said. Then I talked to Tony later on, and he was going to make a visit. I don't know if that has happened yet. He did not call me today to say he did, but, you know, if there is a situation where sedimentation is getting into the county drain, he has a lot of authority under the Drain Act. You know, if there's not a ton the drain office can do. But if it is interfering with the county drain under the drain code, he has a lot of authority.
I'm not sure what the property, I know that Osborne Creek's right there, and they have cleared out a lot to that, taken all the trees. There's another tributary that branches off behind parcels D, E, and F, B, D, and F. It's a little creek that I think can get stopped, but there's a lot of water. It's like a little tributary that goes behind all of these properties. If they plan on pumping into that, that's going to flood all of our back of our properties right out.
So the Osborne Creek crosses Beardsley Road.
Yes.
And curves around and then goes north. So the Osborne Creek is the only one that is an official county drain on the map.
Right.
This other one, while it may flow into that, my guess is if there is something going further to the east there that is a private drain in there, because it's not on the map. But the Osborne Creek is a county drain, under the jurisdiction of the Drain Commissioner.
Yeah, that crosses Beardsley and Church Road.
Correct.
Yes.
So then, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Oh, the one other thing, if I just don't lose track, I know within the state right now, Michigan Aggregate Association, MAA, is behind this big thing with House Bills 4526, 4527, 4528, which is completely taking away all the rights of local townships and counties on being able to control this and put it into one big conglomerate. Are you guys running against that?
Yeah,
Tom can
yes.
speak, Tom
Yeah,
can
well,
speak to that. He spoke to that in our meeting.
well, but we've also, we've sent letters to our reps and since.
Has that already been passed?
No,
No.
Ooh, like it's.
no, but they, so this keeps, Michigan Agricultural Association, you know, because no one likes a gravel pit in their backyard, is, you know, tried to lobby to take local authority away from all of that. And every session, these bills kind of all of a sudden sneak up, right? Somebody introduces them. And they were reintroduced in the current session here. They've been introduced in the last 2 or 3 sessions at least. You know, we're a member of the Michigan Townships Association, which is always 100% on that stuff. Anything that takes away local control, they're on, right? And so we get all kinds of legislative alerts, like it's been stuck on an agenda on a committee somewhere, you know, of what's going on. So yes, we have sent resolutions to both our state senator and state rep saying that we are opposed to that. And that was several months ago, last time it surfaced. And it's one of those things that, you know, come up, they'll get a bunch of blowback, then it goes down, and then all of a sudden it'll sneak on some agenda at a House committee or a subcommittee somewhere, and, you know, and then it flares up again. You know, will it happen at some point? I have no idea. But
As of now.
it has not passed yet. So, did you have anything to add with that, Tom? No. Yeah. Okay. So, but yes, we are fully aware of that, and have been, and have made our opinions clear. But contact your state rep and senator. I mean, that's the key. I know our planning commission all individually contacted them, you know, too. So, very key, so that they know, you know, our take on it. To be honest with you, I have had one of the members of our planning commission contacted Rep. Bagol to ask him, what is your take on this, and got no answer.
Right.
What,
So, that concerns me.
what is there's been alluded to a letter from Pete Preston to this guy,
That was my next thing.
and the other thing was any grandfathering that.
Correct. So my next step was the Community Development Office, which is the office that really, you know, handles zoning and stuff. So Pete sent a letter back the end of May to Todd Davis. This was before he purchased the property. Concerning the legal non-conforming status of the above referenced property. He's talking about in 2015, he apparently made a site visit to the property, because this had been looked at, I guess, once before. You know, for mineral excavation purposes, talks about how the earliest recorded activity was 1954. Says subsequent activity has taken place since that time. He visually witnessed previous, you know, activity on the site, you know, that were once mined, but now, you know, are now overgrown with trees and shrubs. So then he cites the two parts of the zoning ordinance that deal with non-conforming uses. My biggest problem is I think these two segments in the zoning ordinance, and they are from the book, are extremely vague. You know, I really don't like them, and I mean, I'll just read it. No such non-conforming use shall be enlarged or increased nor extended to occupy a greater area of land than was occupied at the effective date of the adoption or amendment of this ordinance, except upon appeal and finding of hardship in the case of section 10.9. You were asking about when ordinance went into effect. The Maine County ordinance went into effect in 1982, you know, and it's been amended periodically through there. But before 82, there wasn't really much in the way of rules in our county. So 82 is when zoning really kind of came into effect. Then the next part that's even more relevant here, except in the case of surface mining operations, which this says surface mining, existing holes may be worked and enlarged on the land which constituted the lot or parcel on which operations were conducted at the time of becoming non-conforming. However, no new holes shall be established unless a special use permit is obtained and pursuant to the procedures in Article 12 and the applicable standards of Section 4.3.67, which is the part of the zoning ordinance that covers surface mining. My problem is, okay, you could, I mean, if it existed before 82, that's an existing non-conforming use. But it hasn't been active the entire time. And at what point, if it's, you can't be grandfathered if it's not being used, right? I mean, okay, you have a house that's too close to the road, let's say. You don't have to tear down your house because the zoning ordinance says you have to be 40 feet from the right-of-way. But if you decide to tear down your house and build a new one, you do, you know, because you're no longer grandfathered there. If this has not been an active gravel pit, which all indications are that it has not for some time, I don't see how it's presently grandfathered still, in my interpretation of it. Now, I'm not Pete Preston, and I, you know, the one, but you see, Tom, where I'm going a little bit of what I don't, if it was used in the 50s, does that mean it can just be non-conforming forever, even though it's been abandoned?
Yeah, it seems like grandfathering would have to have an expiration, and I thought it
But the
did.
problem is, in that section of the ordinance, it doesn't say, you know, an existing non-conforming use not used for 5 years, you know, expired. It doesn't say that.
And say
See, I always was under the impression, and this could be very erroneous, that a grandfathered thing didn't very often carry to a new owner, and that a grandfathered situation, if it wasn't, in other words, like a sign, if you had a sign on a commercial piece of property and it was grandfathered to where it sat and how high it was and whatever, but if you took the faces off the sign and it sat empty for so many months, then you weren't allowed to be grandfathered anymore. So I don't know, you know, and those could not have any application to this, I don't know, but I would think that there should have been maybe more communication to us in that.
Well, the ordinance, I mean, basically what Pete said is he determined that based on the information provided to our office and walking the site previously, it is my interpretation that the continued mining of this property would be found as a viable legal non-conforming use. That's what he determined as zoning administrator. Now, do I agree with that? I do not. But, you know, one problem is the ordinance isn't super specific. But as zoning administrator, that is what he determined. And then, you know, basically he said, you know, no additional zoning permits are necessary. It does not, and he does point out, it does not in any way exempt you from any requirements such as drain, environmental and soil erosion and sedimentation control regulations administered by other agencies. Now, he did request that they maintain in compliance with the rules and regulations on surface mining, which are in the main zoning ordinance. So, we talk about the abandonment thing. In the section of the zoning ordinance that if you were to apply for a gravel pit today and get a special use permit, 8 pages long, lots of rules in there. But it talks about when activities on or use of the area subject to mining or any portion thereof have ceased for more than 1 year, as shown by examination of the premises or other means, the planning commission shall give the operator written notice of their intention to prove that the area subject to mining or a portion thereof is abandoned. Within 30 days following the receipt of the notice, the operator shall have an opportunity to submit evidence that the use of the area subject to mining or thereof is continuing. If the planning commission proves that the operator intends to abandon the use and by some act or omission has manifested a voluntary decision to abandon the use, the planning commission may find an abandonment of the use. So under the new rules, if you get a special use permit, if you have abandoned it for more than a year, unless you prove that you haven't, the special use permit ends and goes away. Now,
I
you
think
could,
abandonment there is the key issue in the language you read earlier about the establishment of the non-conforming use is pertinent. That's certainly the direction, if I were looking at it to oppose it, I would look to the abandonment issue. I mean, if for years it hasn't been used as a gravel pit, and this gentleman says he purchased it based on, he looked at the area and he thought he was purchasing an agricultural area, so the planning and zoning is on his side there. But I think the issue, you've hit on the key issue right there, and the abandonment. I don't know how long it went without being used as a gravel pit, but if it looked like the normal terrain and didn't appear to be a gravel pit, the whole idea of zoning is people can look at the land and they know what they're purchasing into. They know what their uses are allowed. So I think that those regulations that you're reading from are pertinent. I question whether, to the extent to which Pete looked into that, I think he needs to look at that in addition to kind of the general rule on non-conforming use.
right. Now, keep in mind, the language I cited from that about abandonment is part of the current regulations for that, which Pete determined they didn't have to be under because it was an existing non-conforming use. But I think that
There's other language you read that causes me to question that conclusion.
so it comes back to what do we do or what can't we do? And when the zoning administrator makes an administrative decision, it is subject to appeal to the zoning board of appeals. Not the county planning commission. I mean, they can certainly, that was the meeting last week, and you can certainly go there.
That was just a talk.
Just to talk. But a decision made, an administrative decision made by the zoning administrator, which is Pete, can be appealed to the zoning board of appeals.
How long has it been since there was activity in this gravel pit?
I don't honestly know.
My property.
Well, I've been out there for over 40 years. Ain't been nothing out there.
Yeah, long
Yeah.
time. Would you agree?
I've only
It's
been
our-
there 20 years.
But
Yeah,
you're still 20 years.
Yeah, but
And that's what makes me argue this is
Yeah.
not if this was we had this issue come up, with Joe's and Ossett's, which is down on Brent Road, not too far south from there.
Okay.
But I mean, remember that issue came up on his. Well, his was a gravel pit that existed before the ordinance, but has continuously operated, right? I mean, the same issue came up in Woodhall on the one on Beard Road by Woodbury, remember the lime company and all that? Again, it had existed since the 50s and continuously operates as a existing non-conforming use. This one did not continuously operate, and I question that it can be called under the non-conforming. So
Our best approach is to go to get the board of,
my opinion is we should,
Zoning board.
we would send as the board a letter to the zoning, to the zoning office requesting that the zoning board of appeals review the decision on the letter that Pete sent on May 30th to question the validity of this being an existing non-conforming use, given that it has not been an active gravel pit in many decades.
And like Chris said, knowing that the property was owned by one person 50 years ago, and then these properties were divided off, and now homes are around there, you know, and school buses are going up the
Well,
road,
that
and, you know,
that
there are
isn't.
a lot of different things happening.
But
than
Mark,
just one
don't get too far in the weeds there. I mean, the real key here is this, what it was determined is the zoning administrator said he felt this fell under the existing non-conforming use. If it is, they're not, other than the driveway on Church Road, they've done nothing wrong. If it's an existing non-conforming use, they did nothing wrong.
So we have to appeal it.
But if it is not an existing non-conforming use, then they have to comply with the regulations and the zoning ordinance, and that's extensive. I mean, you
I'm
know.
concerned about the amount of, I don't want to say destruction, but the amount of changing to the topography of the piece of property that can happen in the time it's going to take to get through the county process.
I don't disagree. But that's why I think,
But we gotta do it legally.
well, I mean, we can't go out there and stop them. We have no legal authority to do that.
Well, we could certainly,
The Environmental Health Department is the office, in my opinion, Environmental Health and the Drain Office if it involves the drain. The Environmental Health Office is the one that could stop things tomorrow.
Are there wetlands out there?
I would agree.
You said there was, right?
Because if there's wetlands, then why are
Didn't you tell me there
There's
was?
north of
Yeah.
our house.
maybe
Let-
we
So-
we should
Let
contact the
Robin,
DEP
she told me on the
as well.
phone.
Yeah, my husband and I, 2 years ago, were thinking about buying that property from John Rolls. And so we went out there and walked all through the property.
Okay.
And of course, I grew up there. My family bought their property the portion of which I now own in 1967. So in the front of the property, there was marshy land abutting basically the Osborne Creek. And then behind that, there were two ponds, one larger, one smaller, and then I think maybe even another one or two as you went further back that way. And that land has been, it's sand now. I mean, it's just, the amount of work that has been done already is astonishing.
Environmental health can be involved with it. I mean, because, and that's what Katie mentioned to me, you know, that, you know, we feel there are wetlands in there too.
Yeah, there used
I
to
mean,
be.
I'm gonna say this again, I've said it about 5 times. Environmental health, I think, is the office that can stop things tomorrow, right? They have that authority under the Soil Erosion and Sedimentation Control Act.
Yeah,
So
'cause
what does it take to have them stop them
Do you have
tomorrow?
their name? You have their number?
Here, I'll get everyone their number, but I think it's best for as many people to contact them as possible. You know, I've sent them Pete's letter, you know, I've told them what's going on, I told them, you know, there's all kinds of earth changes going on.
Oh.
I mean,
Yeah.
you know.
There are, as you go back along my property, there are berms, you know,
Yeah.
short berms being built all along.
Sure, Mark and I
the
went
edge.
out there yesterday and we looked it over. I mean, there's all kinds of things that require a soil erosion and sedimentation control permit issued there. That being said, they're also the quickest route if they feel there is a state violation. I mean, they can get that to happen, you know, because think of them as the DEQ's little brother of the county. Okay, I mean, that's where they fit in. They're the local administrator of that.
So
You
this-
keep in mind that
this is
wetlands
public-
will
you wanna
raise
write
the
that down,
interest of
Graham, is key. You have
the
to
legal
I'll take a picture.
Yeah.
right away. If it's 2 acres or more,
What number is that, Mark, you're giving her? Is that environmental
Katie,
health?
989-743-2390, and ask for Katie.
Katie or Casey?
Either one, Casey or Katie.
Kate.
You leaving us?
I'm gonna sneak out.
At this point, at this point, I would go to Casey. Just
Which one?
because-
Casey?
Casey, probably.
I think he's the one that came out.
It's gonna elevate to him pretty quick.
it's his area.
Right, I mean, Katie's the local one, but if there's a major violation, it's gonna go to him.
Okay, Sheriff County.
Environmental health.
Casey or whatever.
is the department, Environmental Health Department. And they're under the umbrella of the Health Department, but they are their own division.
Casey, what's her last name?
Katie Plastick,
Classic.
or KCS.
And the board meeting at which Casey will be present is tomorrow afternoon at 4 o'clock.
Tomorrow, 4 o'clock. And that's
And then this is
not the
this-
survey building, that's at the, across the street.
Yeah.
Where Tony's office used to be.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, Tom, are you on the Health Committee?
On that.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is your regularly scheduled Health and Human Services Committee for the Board of Commissioners? Okay. So that being said,
I would come, but I go to golf tomorrow.
That's important.
On my birthday, so.
So, my suggestion for us, besides encouraging everyone to contact environmental health, which we will continue to follow with them, is that we send a letter as a board to request that this determination that it has been, falls under the non-conforming use be appealed to the zoning board of appeals for clarification.
Okay, Troy's made a motion, seconded by Butch. Roll call vote.
Let's see here. Mark Frazier,
Yes.
Francis Griffith,
Yes.
Kelly Schmidt, yes. Joe Tremblay?
Yes.
Mark Foley?
Absolutely.
Okay, so I will get that drafted, and once it's printed, I'll have you and Kelly sign it, and then we'll send it up to them to request, and we can request that as we're one of the 14 townships under the county zoning ordinance. Do I think they'll do anything? I mean, Pete has stated his opinion on it, right? And
When is that meeting?
I don't know when the ZBA meets next. County Planning Commission meets 4th Wednesday, but I do not know when the Zoning Board of Appeals meets.
I'd like to encourage anybody that is contacting, sending any kind of communication to whatever board at the county to also CC Tom and Brian Boggs, who's the county administrator, and Greg, what's Greg's last name? Bordeaux, who is
Chairman.
is the chairman of the county commission. They're all those contact points are in the county website. You can get that information as to how you can.
If you all do that, this issue will come up to the awareness of the commission on the second, Monday night in the second full week in August, which I think is like the 14th of August.
But that's just, I mean, the more people you can put pressure on and keep aware of it, the better chance you have to.
But I'll just say it one more time, bug environmental health.
Yeah.
Because they're the ones that could go out tomorrow with a cease and desist order.
Tom, I didn't catch your last name.
Emery.
Emery.
E-M-O-R-Y. Tom worked for,
Tom was our township attorney before he became
but
county
he was
commissioner.
working in the Attorney General's office.
And right, he worked on the state attorney
Yeah,
general's.
so anyway.
Do you guys have any more direct questions for us about this matter? Have we explained, I tried to explain it as, you know, it's a complicated process, tried to explain it as much as possible.
Oh, I appreciate
Just
that.
know
That
that
was
we're fighting for that.
Right, I'm just understand,
Yeah.
our authority on this is next to nil. But certainly, we can, as one thing, coordinated between the county agencies, which sometimes is as much important as everything, just so everyone is on the same page. And I'll be blunt, we've had a lot of problems with the zoning office. And as you could tell by our discussions earlier in the meeting, we're not pleased with it.
And they know that. Most
And I think they know that, and I don't know what more to say on that. They know we're not pleased on it, Tom knows we're not pleased, it's one of the reasons Tom ran for office. Unfortunately, there's 7 of them, and Tom's only one
One
of them.
vote on the commission.
And several other
My
ones.
concern is that the county does not pay attention to what the townships are doing on planning when they implement it through zoning, and it's a real problem.
And Chris,
And
Pete
our
Preston, you
frustration.
talked to Pete Preston on the phone?
Yes, I have.
Once or twice?
Twice.
twice. And, I mean, he's very courteous on the phone. You know, he's a contract employee. He don't work for the county. He works for several counties. He lives in the St. John, or that area over there. So he's not a county employee. They let them go. They had budget cuts and they let them go. So whoever's in that office there are not.
Everyone in that office works for Pete, and the county contracts with Pete's company to operate the
So
office.
it's a different situation.
And so you run into these problems where, you know, who's got the best interest at heart and everything else going
He
on
has the
there.
credentials. If you're an MD and you're an MD and I'm an MD, you know,
Oh, he has the credentials to
he
do
has the
the
credentials.
office, but
So, but he charges a lot, so obviously he has many different branches. To make his money, he has several different areas. It's not just us.
he's spread
He's over here, over there, over
extremely
here,
thin, but
He's 1 day a week here. So that's why I'm
Doesn't
happy
matter.
that he
It's
I'm
his
happy that
job.
he called you. You know,
It's his
and
job.
vice versa. I mean, it's serious. In his mind, it's serious, or he wouldn't have called you back. He wouldn't have called me at home and said, we'll cancel the meeting. So I said, will you mention your name? I said, I'll let the people know that I called. And he said, I'll call them also. So that's good. You know, I mean, he realizes there's an issue. So, but I think Troy is right by taking care of going through the health.
they're the ones that can stop it tomorrow. They're about the only ones that could stop it tomorrow. And again, if you see them using trucks on that Church Road entrance, let one of us know, and we will immediately let the road commission know.
Are there any roads that are designated for that? I mean, so like is Britton Road designated a,
Not an all weather route, no.
okay.
So, I mean,
What color are those dump trucks? Any of them white?
Their dump trucks right now are white, they're small, they're using the exit on Beardsley. The only traffic I'm getting right now on that Church Road entrance are pickup trucks.
We're getting traffic of the white dump trucks down past Beardsley.
That's those guys, that's the,
Kelly lives on Beardsley, between Brenton and Bath.
Further down.
oh, okay, yeah.
So
Yeah, that's
we're
the-
getting that traffic.
So now, I mean, is it illegal for a dump truck to use any of those roads? No.
Right.
They can go on any road.
Except when there's load restrictions.
Except when there's load restrictions in the winter. I mean, can you say, wow, it's illegal to run that truck on any?
I'm just saying
they
they're
can-
getting that traffic.
Right, they can run, I mean, they are legal Michigan, as long as you're under legal Michigan weights, you can run on any road. I mean, so that's,
I think they started picking up activity 2 days ago.
But you know what our road is like too, how it fell apart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So this
Yeah.
added,
so that's why in the normal, when you go through the special use permit thing, the road commission, if you were applying for a new one, they would significantly regulate that because they want it on all weather roadways, or preferably a state highway. But,
The other thing I'd encourage you guys to do is if you have any pictures that go back a ways that show the property prior to what they've done, I would get those with me if you go to any of these meetings so that you can show that this is, you know, this is a picture of what's happening right now, and this is a picture of what it was last year or the year before.
Can you hook up to whether they have their via Bluetooth? and-
You might have to pass it around. It just depends on who's got what piece of equipment there that day, you know, but,
I would plan on having a paper copy.
yeah, but I would certainly think about having that kind of stuff too, because that has some impact.
and if you go to those meetings, have a packet for each one of them, so they can sit down, just like we did, we looked at everything.
You know, you give me that, I pass it out.
Yeah.
You know.
We're very old school in this
I
country,
like
so
paper.
we don't all have iPads or anything for the meetings, we're
So
patient.
Butch, anything to add? I know you've talked to a lot of the neighbors.
No, I think we
Did we
said quite
cover
a
it
bit
all?
about it and what we gotta do.
Okay.
And for your information, ma'am, the two houses north of you, they don't like it either.
Oh,
The elderly gentleman, he's sick.
mm-hmm.
Okay.
You know him.
And it's another couple, younger couple down there, they
Yeah.
don't like it either.
Did you say you have two brothers near you or one?
I have one brother.
One brother
One
near
brother.
you, okay. Okay, Butch, thank you. Thank you. Well, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. I know you talked about, maybe we're going to delay this until you got here, so
Well, I'm glad I was able to, I'm glad you let me come to
Hopefully you
discuss
saw.
this.
It's a public meeting, yep, so.
Welcome anytime to
I
come.
gotta run to
I know you gotta go to
Yep.
Woodlawn. Tell them hi over there.
Yeah.
All right,
Okay.
thank you.
Is that what we're doing with that?
Yeah, we're gonna go on to cremation.
Right, so we will send a letter up there, and when we send it, we got your email, we'll copy you or Chris.
If
But-
you could email me this information, people to contact and in care of also, that would be a great thing to get organized, and then I can, when I write my letters, I know how to do it in care of, if that's possible. I got it, what, through the names,
Yeah,
the CC.
these guys have got all that, but you can go right on the county website too and get all that.
Great.
Yeah.
And if you,
But-
if you
but if
talk
you-
to,
if-
if you mention Bob's, Dr. Bob's.
Mhm.
He's got a,
Brian Boggs.
he's a professor at Michigan State, or was.
Well, he's an attorney too.
And attorney, but, yeah.
But if you can only make one call tomorrow, call environmental health. That's
That's the
the
number
one.
I give you, that's the number I give you. They work, their lunch is noon to 12, 12 to 1, so, but other than that, they'll be there.
And if nobody calls you back, call them again.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, don't
Thank you.
back off, keep moving on.
Yeah. Yeah, we will do the same.
That's great. Thanks for all your help.
Yes? Hopefully we'll get it resolved.
Okay, Kelly, opening and closing license.
Okay, so, we spoke with, Mike. He's been having some extra duties put on him, more of like being the funeral director down there.
The what?
A funeral, he's taking on the role of a funeral director for cremations.
So long and the
Cremations
short.
are very time consuming. He's down there for multiple days. He's digging cremation holes, by hand. And people are not going through the funeral homes, like they would if it was a full burial. So he is actually fielding all the calls and making all of the arrangements and whatnot. And he feels that $175 for a cremation is way too low for his time.
So long and the short is when you do a regular full burial, a licensed funeral director has to be present. I mean, that's a state law, right? And so the funeral home has coordinated everything. Well, that's not the case with a cremation. And, when you go out there for a full burial, and ones that I've been out there, they do the graveside service, and as people start walking away, the bulk guy's getting ready to lower things in, right? Well, with a cremation, you don't have that organization when it's the family just doing it themselves, and they
They linger.
and, all of a sudden this becomes a 6-7 hour project for $175. And, so our suggestion, we met with him, was, I mean, like you said, at the end of the day, cremation is almost as much work as a full burial. I mean, just because of everything goes on, plus, you still have to dig it, and,
Yeah, but you don't have to dig very far. I mean, you're not digging as big a hole as you're when you put a
no,
gas
but you're
in.
not doing it with an excavator.
You're
usually.
digging it by hand, 2 foot by 2 foot. Yeah.
Well,
And you
they didn't-
may run into roots and stones and rocks and,
And sometimes he does use the excavator, he can, but we allow 3 cremains in a lot. Well, there's already a couple there, you have to be careful about that.
I mean, my parents were both put on cremation and urns put in. And this was in a huge cemetery down there, Toledo. And they just sent a guy out with a shovel, and he didn't dig any 2 foot by 2 foot hole. He dug a hole about 2 foot deep maybe, but just big enough to put the urns in.
Well, some of the urns were getting kind of,
yeah, they're large.
Yeah.
so anyway, our suggestion was, we met with Mike to do this, to basically amend our price on regular openings and closing by $100. And then to change, which by the way, that makes it the same rate as Bethany, which is the Catholic cemetery in Morrison. Then the cremations, we jumped that quite a bit from $175 to $400, and then $500 in the winter. And make it clear that services are limited to 1 hour. Anything over an hour will be charged at $200 an hour with a 1 hour minimum charge. So if they wanna sit, I mean, we had one group that set up and had a picnic, you know,
Ice cream social.
and, you know, I mean, the problem is he can't start filling things in until they leave, and we can't leave it, or, you know, so we gotta put a rein on that.
Mike is very conscientious about not running people off at the time of, you know, the last moment.
The greeting. Yeah.
So he's very conscientious about that. He doesn't want to do that,
But we wanted to,
but he doesn't want to be there for 4 hours.
right, I mean, and like I said, if you're in a full burial, you know, the funeral home director will say, okay, this concludes their service, and basically they start
Talking.
start lowering things in, right? I mean,
you're talking.
you know, because they're not gonna wait around all day either.
No, that's right.
And so I think if it's clear up front that if it's an hour, then
And
that's,
this may not happen all the time,
yeah.
if the funeral people.
Also, we made it clear, you know, we've had a ton of requests for Saturdays and evenings,
Oh, yeah.
which we used to charge an extra $100, and my opinion is if you want to discourage it, you have to charge more to discourage it. So we would raise that to an extra $250 charge. If you look at our bills list this month,
Okay.
we had, what, 7 burials? 5 of them were after hours or on a Saturday.
Okay.
Really?
Most of it.
You know, I mean, it used to be you had a funeral at 11 o'clock
Yeah. 2 o'clock.
on a day of the week, and
3 o'clock. Yeah.
well, 11's a normal funeral time.
11, 12.
And that way things are wrapped up and done. But I mean, my goodness, we had people wanting to do it on the 4th of July, wanting to do it on Mother's Day. I mean, and if, of course, if it was a full burial, none of that would be permitted because the funeral home wouldn't do it.
My only concern, and
Okay.
I just want to put that out there, is that some people go the cremation route because
Because
of
they
money.
can't afford it, correct. We had that discussion. Yes.
You know, and so $400 is a pretty good chunk of money on top of what the funeral home is gonna charge for the cremation and stuff. Because you're not allowed just to do your own burn.
No, well, and actually, if it's just cremated, you don't actually have to go through a funeral home.
You gotta go to
You
somebody.
gotta go to a
No,
crematory.
you can call a
Crematorium.
crematorium from the point, as long as the medical examiner comes in and releases the body, then you can call the crematorium and they will come.
Actually, the little tidbit is funeral homes can't do cremations. Crematories can't run funeral homes.
True.
That's a little tidbit if you didn't know.
Unless you
So,
say they're funeral.
so when you go to the funeral home uptown and be cremated, they contract it with someone else. They don't do a cremation.
They have somebody come.
They have, you know, they
Or a
have,
sharp funeral home, they do both.
no, they don't. It's a separate entity, it has to be by law. A funeral home cannot own a crematory.
Well, I know somebody that has both.
I think
Well,
I do
and
too.
now,
I
it's
do too.
common that maybe the husband owns one and the wife owns the other.
It's the
But
same.
they are not allowed to be the same entity.
Sharp and.
Any rate, that would be my only concern would be the
Well, and we discussed that.
increased cost. But
It is, I mean, it's,
I think we have some method of hardship recognition if we have to, don't we?
you know, I mean, what can they do to keep it simple? Well, they can, if it's just the $400, they can make sure it's short, sweet, and not on Saturday or after 4 o'clock, right? I mean,
Right.
that gets them the real extra charges. Yeah, I mean,
It's a 3-day, it's a,
our problem is we also have to, right, be mindful that we have to have someone that does it,
we'll do it.
right? And,
It's not gonna hurt, we can always change it, let's see how it goes.
well, I mean,
See how-
you know, basically what Mike said is, you know,
See it?
this isn't working, you know,
Yeah,
right?
he was
And
frustrated, okay. So
and
what's,
we had 2 weeks ago, we had an extremely rude person that, you know, kind of set this off, and I don't know,
okay,
Well,
well,
I'll make a motion that we amend the
priceless.
cemetery prices to the new suggested amounts.
And if you notice at the bottom on the foundations, we changed a few of those, just to round them to the nearest $5, because we seem to have a rash of people coming to pay in cash.
oh, sure.
And,
All right.
Troy doesn't want to go get that one.
So everything in red is the new pricing.
Correct.
Who wants to second that one? Butch, okay, okay, Mark made the motion, Butch seconded it, roll call vote.
Mark Frazier.
Yes.
Francis Griffith.
Yes.
Kelly Schmidt, yes. Trey Farmley.
Yes.
Mark Foltz.
Yes, so you'll do the
Yep.
pricing and we'll get them set up. Next on our little list of items is CISA payment strike.
Okay, so, for the ambulance assessment that we pay is based on a calendar year payment. So the money that we pay, you see in our bills list every month here, that we pay it in monthly installments. That money was of course collected on last winter's taxes, so that money is, in our special assessment account. As we've discussed before, in preparation for the change in the assessment amount for next year, this budget year is extremely tight at CISA. As the alternate member on the CISA board, I am now participating on the budget committee. So I'm seeing this firsthand, and things are incredibly tight. What I would like is the authorization, and if we authorize it tonight, we'll prepare just a simple little agreement, which the CISA board, I think, would have to adopt too, where we could pay the rest of this year's installments upfront if they needed for cash flow purposes. And it would be clear that this is not to be an ongoing thing, this is kind of a one-time deal, and that there's neither side's got an interest charge or anything. This is simply accelerating the current year payments, if need be,
For a period of time.
till the end of the year.
What if there's other issues as far as their finances?
In terms of,
And we have paid money.
you mean like, what if it ceases to exist before the end of the year? Would be a problem. I'm not saying it wouldn't.
I don't anticipate that it could dissolve that quickly.
Yeah, I would agree with Mark. The other part of it is we're an incorporating member of it. And as part of what goes along with being an incorporated member, if things
Go sour.
we get our share of the assets, but we also get our share of the liabilities too. It is not in our interest for this organization to fail. And that's what I've told everybody on the finance committee. That we have to have a fire department and we have to have an ambulance service, right? And so yes, I would agree with Mark that it is not,
Is it a calendar fiscal year?
correct, they work on a calendar fiscal year. Starting January 1, there's going to be for revenue, assuming everything comes together for that. Things will still be tight by the end of the year. I'm not saying they're not going to be. But if this is needed for short-term cash flow needs, I want to have that option. It may not even be needed. But I'll be blunt, as the finance committee, we have really struggled getting our arms around everything. Some of the reporting to the board could have been better over time, and there's all kinds of fingers that could be pointed there, but nonetheless, hopefully in the next month or so, they're gonna have a bills list, just like our bills list, where it breaks down every bill that goes out, and they haven't been getting that before. Has the budget to date, which they've been getting for the last few months now. We're moving in the right direction. The budget committee has worked well together. I think everyone's got the same goal there. Things are, I won't sugarcoat it, things are tight.
I'll make a motion
This
that,
will be resolution 823, okay?
it's what? 8/22?
2023.
23. Okay, who wants to make, I'll make a motion that we accept that change of accelerated payment till the end of the year.
I'll second it.
And Troy seconded. Okay, roll call vote.
Francis Griffith.
Yes.
Kelly Schmidt, yes. Trey Farmley.
Yes.
Mark Foltz.
Yes.
Mark Frazier.
Yes.
Okay. Well, now we've got a mailbox situation.
So I was able to get 2 bids to install our new mailbox.
Okay.
Butch worked feverishly to try to revamp our old, one of our election boxes to retrofit into the hopper style mail slot that we bought. But now it's time to install it, and I had a couple bids.
Okay.
Do we get reimbursed from the state?
No, we won't. I don't believe so. Not for that.
Okay.
This is,
Or mail,
this is our mailbox.
mailbox.
But I don't think we won't be reimbursed from the state either to, install the ballot box either.
So here's what the MTA gave us as guidelines. As we all know, if you watch the news, tons of shenanigans with ballot drop boxes. And it is their opinion, based on what was in the constitutional amendment, Proposal 2, that passed last November, is that every jurisdiction must have a ballot drop box. Which of course we have had one forever here.
Separate.
But that it is determined that that drop box can only be for election material. And that you cannot commingle election material with tax payments.
So where's it gonna go?
It's gonna go right next to the handicap sign. So we'll have our mail slot will be here, and then the ballot drop box will be right next to it.
So Troy loses part of his desk?
No,
No, it's outside.
it'll be outside.
Oh, it's out, it doesn't come inside?
No.
No, it doesn't come inside at all, because they want them outside.
People drive
This
by and drop
is
their ballots.
far less secure than the way we do it now.
But we
this
have a
is-
camera, but it's.
But this is,
Stop, let him talk.
this is far less secure than what we have now, being inside the building.
So why are 16-inch centers and stuff a problem if it's going on the outside of the building?
This is, okay, so you're confusing the two. This is for the mail, our US mail installation, the new box. Hopper style,
And anything else that gets dropped.
right. US mail,
Tax payments,
Yes.
whatever, okay.
And then we secondly have the ballot drop box that we need to have installed. And Mike is gonna pour a pad with bolts in it so that we can bolt it down. That's separate. This is for the US mail and tax. This is for the
Just-
township mail.
Communication, yeah.
The long and the short is, our original plan was to just have this new drop box be both. But the state has decided that you cannot commingle those.
And we purchased,
That you
we
must
purchased the
have-
hopper, we purchased the hopper style before the state ruled on us having to have a separate.
Now,
hopper.
the state drop box, the fancy one, the state did pay for that.
Yes.
Well, the reason, and I can understand that, because that was gonna be my next question. If you commingle, then how many people would have access to the mailbox?
Only,
But you see what I'm saying? The ballot box, and you have a limited amount of people, you
Correct.
probably.
Now, that being said, as we all know, people will put them in the wrong box,
Oh,
and
they'll
we
be-
deal with that
they'll
as
be
we deal
mixed
with it.
up, sure.
But, I mean,
But this is.
we're just trying to follow the rules as given to us.
You gotta have a 24/7, you gotta have a place like you would your mail, on the outside of the restaurant or whatever, so that's.
so anyway, I contacted a couple people to see if they would install our US mail, our township mail box.
Yeah,
And, because the hopper style, box doesn't fit between the two studs, they have to retrofit it. So it's gonna cost a little more to do that.
Dumb
So
question is, why can't we just keep the old slot as our mailbox?
we paid $900 for that.
Well, let me back up. So there's a problem where our existing slot comes in
That's-
and then transitions into the box. It has a groove in there that stuff gets caught in.
Yeah, it does get stuck.
I mean, we've had mail get stuck in there and like
backs out.
not
Backs
coming
out.
all the way through. And it's happened 2 or 3 times.
And with, it's safer, it's safer.
Yeah, this new, you can look at it at the end of the meeting. but
Butch did a
this
good
is-
job.
Yeah,
this
Butch did a
has an
really nice job.
anti-fishing and it is a
Saved us.
tilting mail slot.
Okay, that was
So
good.
Okay. So which one do you want, Kelly?
I think we need to go with the Godfrey.
Oh, I see, you got two bids, they're stapled, they're not the
Motion
same bid. This is
Motion
two
to
bids.
accept Godfrey's bid for installing the mailbox at a
Wait a
maximum
minute,
of
I didn't realize there's
$1,000.
both, I thought this
Up
was the
to
same bid.
$900.
Up to 900 or 1,000?
900.
900. So we got one
Okay.
for 900, one for 1200.
Okay, up to $900.
So Mark, you're making that motion,
Yeah.
seconded by
I'll second it.
Troy? Roll call vote, Kelly.
Going to sleep?
Kelly Schmidt, yes. Carmelie.
See, I didn't-
Yes.
I
Mark
thought this
Full.
was one bid. Yes.
Mark Fraser.
Yes.
Francis Strickland.
Yeah.
I got you.
Okay, I'm thinking, who's the other bid? Okay. check.
Out of curiosity,
Yeah,
that's a hell of a lot of money for what they're doing.
that's what I told Troy.
Well, part of the problem, too, there's electrical that we have to deal with, and also, like I said, also the 2x4. One of the 2x4s will have to be cut out and boxed in.
Which means they must have to do something with the covering of the wall at some point, whether they're inside or outside.
Yeah, I asked Mike if he could potentially do most of the work from the outside, and he said, yeah, we'll definitely try to do that so that we're not disrupting the drywall part.
All right, good. Okay, well, that'll get done. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, now we're,
Nelson Company, public hearing dates,
we'll
so,
talk about that.
sure. So this Nelson Hold, this is the company that has purchased property at the corner of Rose Boulevard and Lansing Road. They are going to be constructing a company that produces and sells steel roofing and siding. I mean, I believe they're gonna manufacture there, correct, Mark?
That's what I understand, yeah.
So they're going through the site plan review process and all that. They have indicated their desire to, when they get ready to do the building, to have a tax abatement, you know, like everyone that builds a new industrial building would like to do.
Sure.
So Justin had asked me, you know, they're not ready for the abatement process, but if you recall with Spartan Fence, the first step is it has to be in an industrial development district before you can consider the abatement, you know, which is an extra step. So I told them if they sent us a letter, we could at least start that process, you know, and then when they're, because they have to, before they can apply for the abatement, they gotta have their plans for the building figured out and their numbers and all that. So they sent us a letter, how did that didn't get in the packets, did it? Anyway, we have a letter from them requesting that their property that they have purchased be placed in an industrial development district. So, to do that, we have to hold a hearing on it. And so I would make a motion that we set a public hearing date for our September meeting
September 6th.
to,
You say 5th,
6th?
6th?
to have an industrial, to establish an industrial development district for Nelson Holding.
I second.
Okay, seconded by Mark. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Just as a side note on there, we're also going to be having our ambulance public hearing at our September meeting too.
Oh, okay.
Pencil and I, full meeting that night.
Is it, that's going to be published?
Kind of as long as this one, huh?
Probably.
Probably.
9-day early voting, Kelly.
Yeah.
9-day early voting location.
So, with proposal
Two.
22, came the 9-day early voting. There's been discussion as to whether or not the townships want to hold their own 9-day early voting, go in together with other jurisdictions, or have the county do it. I would like, this resolution is to give me the authorization to enter into any agreement with either the county to have them do the 9-day early voting at a site that they choose to do that. And if that fails, then to go in with other jurisdictions to do that.
This is basically to give Kelly the authority to sign the agreement with it. So as it stands now, it looks like the county clerk is going to coordinate something so that there will be an early voting site, probably at the county,
Right.
you know, for people to do the 9 days early. You still have absentee voting like you've always had, but
Right.
absentee voting is not the same as early voting. Early voting is where you actually put it into a machine, and absentee voting is the envelope system.
This does take, you know, the statutory duty as far as the early voting from the township, and allows the county to do that if they decide to do that.
Well, I can see it being a huge staffing issue.
Oh yeah, otherwise we basically have to operate a polling center for 9 days.
In order for us to do that, we would have to buy another tabulator, another poll book, and
3 election workers.
have at least 3 election workers for 9
Plus
days.
your time that's gonna be.
Yeah, I have to be there.
So anyway, so
I make a motion that Kelly has the right to do that
Butch?
voting.
Butch made the motion.
A
Okay.
second.
Mark second. Okay, all in favor?
No,
We need a roll.
Roll call vote, Kelly. We got it, yeah, roll call, okay.
Trey Parmalee?
Yes.
Mark Foltz?
Yes.
Mark Frazier?
Yes.
Francis Griffin?
Yes.
Ellie Schmidt, yes.
Okay. Last on our agenda,
No,
oh, 9 day, oh, I added something, didn't I?
Flow meter.
Yeah, but I got shrubs, okay.
So the,
DDA flow meter.
no, why do you keep calling it the DDA flow meter?
What's the DDA district?
What's the sewer
It's
flow
flow meter for the
So it should be
sewer.
sewer?
So Troy said that, hey, the flow meter's been dead for a year.
The village contacted us.
And they want a flow meter. The problem is, it's shorting itself out. There's no flow, very limited flow. So, there's only so many things you can buy. For an accurate flow, you use a magnetic flow meter, but you gotta have, the pipe fairly full. Well, you're not gonna have, they have a lot, they have 12 or 1,500 gallons a day going through their flow line. We don't have any flow hardly going through ours. In fact, Troy, don't even think the pumps run half the time.
Well, basically, you have to look at the flow that comes from our sewer system, which is the industrial park. Literally, all it is bathrooms, right? From businesses that employ 1 to 2 people. So the flow just isn't that much. And so this flow meter this is how the village allocates, with us, right? Their sewage is metered, our sewage is metered, then there's a formula in the contract that does that. This thing, we go through this circus every 5 to 6 years, and it's of course not working again. So,
It's been dead.
Mark being the sewer master that he is, thought we could try and find something that will work better so that we aren't just constantly doing this. And that's what he's working on.
So they have a technician fellow that, Steve Hughes, and he's gonna meet me at 11 o'clock on Tuesday. We're gonna go down the manhole and check it out, and I'll get the name.
so we don't have an answer today.
No, but we need to authorize Mark to replace it up to a
If we
certain.
get an inexpensive plant home flow meter, I talked to Joe Manceri, there's a Swartz Creek, I've known him for 30 years.
I don't care how long you know that, how much?
3,000.
Not to exceed, about 7,800, but not to exceed 3,500.
3,500?
3,500,
Okay.
so,
I'll make that motion.
so that's what we
Second.
look at.
Roll call. Mark Foltz?
Yes,
Mark Frazier?
Yes.
Francis Griffin?
Yes.
Ellie Schmidt? Trey Parmalee?
Yes. And the village was fine. They basically said for us to handle it with Steve Hughes, whatever we all agreed on was fine with them. They just want it fixed. And they agree that we should get one that works.
so everybody's
So,
happy. Who seconded that one?
Francis Griffin?
Butch? Yeah. Lastly on our list is shrubs to be removed at the
Okay,
Veterans
so
Circle.
Mike has removed, there were shrubs, Great Lakes Monument is donating the flagpole. Mike has already, or is going to remove, or has removed the 2 shrubs that were around the current flagpole. The only 2 that are left now are, if you look at it, they're to the left, and they're about 12 foot tall. They're those tall arborvitaes, and they're dead about 5 foot up. And so he said, to make the circle look better, he said, is there a possibility that we can cut those down? He said, I don't want to tear them out because I'm afraid it'll disrupt the stones, but he said, if we can cut them as low to the ground as we can and just get them out of there to make it look better. So I looked at the Veterans Circle. It's the Haws. One was buried in 1977 and one was buried in 2006. So I'm assuming that these were planted in 1977. So they've outlived their
Age.
no, I thought we had authorized to cut what was necessary anyway.
Well, we authorized around the flagpole, but these are actually somebody's,
But they're half dead.
yes.
Yeah.
And so, I just wanted the board to authorize him to go ahead and cut that down because they're.
Because they covered the stone pretty close, if I
Yes.
remember right.
If they're partially dead, they need to be removed.
Okay.
I'll make
you're okay with that?
I'll make a motion that we authorize the removal of the partially dead shrubs at the Veterans Circle.
All right.
I'll second.
And Butch seconded, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that's it.
Motion to adjourn,
At 8.
Second.
9:03.
Oh my gosh, 9:03. Will you just charge us till 9?